The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered what waited among those distant lights. In the year 2847, they finally had their answer. Admiral Taewoo stood on the bridge of the UNSS Harmony, watching the blue and green world of Valora grow larger in the viewing screen. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. But today, those eyes held something different. They held hope. "Sir, the Mordani delegation is requesting permission to dock," said Lieutenant Hana from her station. Taewoo nodded slowly. "Grant them permission. And Hana, make sure the welcome ceremony is perfect. This is a new beginning for our people." The Mordani Empire had ruled 3 star systems for over 10,000 years. They were an ancient race with blue skin and 4 arms. Their technology was far beyond anything humanity had ever created. When they first made contact with Earth 15 years ago, many humans feared invasion. Instead, the Mordani offered friendship. Commander Yuna walked through the corridors of the colony ship carrying her daughter on her hip. Little Sumin was only 4 years old, but she already understood that today was special. The child pointed at the window, where alien ships floated in the darkness of space. "Mama, are those the friends?" Sumin asked. Yuna smiled and kissed her daughter's forehead. "Yes, baby. Those are our new friends. We're going to live with them on a beautiful planet." The colony on Valora had been planned for 3 years. 12,000 humans would settle on the western continent while Mordani cities covered the east. It was meant to be a symbol of unity between 2 species, a proof that different beings could share a world in peace. Captain Dong-hyun supervised the landing of the first transport ships. He was a young officer, barely 30 years old, with the kind of face that made people trust him instantly. His job was to coordinate the settlement efforts and make sure everything ran smoothly. "All right, people," Dong-hyun called out to the crowd of colonists. "Welcome to your new home. The Mordani have prepared temporary shelters for us. Follow the marked paths and stay together." Among the colonists was an old woman named Sun-ja. She had lived through the resource wars on Earth. She had seen humanity at its worst. Now, at the age of 82, she wanted to see humanity at its best. She walked slowly down the ramp, breathing in the fresh air of an alien world. "It smells like flowers," she said to no one in particular, "like the gardens my mother used to grow." The Mordani welcomed them with open arms. Their leader, High Lord Vexen, gave a speech about cooperation and mutual respect. He spoke of a future where Mordani and human children would play together, where both species would learn from each other. Admiral Taewoo stood beside Vexen during the ceremony. He shook the alien's 4-armed hand and felt genuine warmth from the gesture. "My people are honored to be here," Taewoo said. "We hope this colony will be the first of many." Vexen's large black eyes seemed to shine with emotion. "Admiral, your species has impressed us greatly. In 10,000 years, we have met many races, but none have shown such determination to reach for the stars. We believe humanity has a great destiny." The first months on Valora were like a dream. Human engineers worked alongside Mordani scientists to build proper housing. Children from both species attended school together, learning each other's languages and customs. Yuna often found her daughter playing with Mordani children, their laughter echoing across the settlement. Dr. Yunbi ran the colony's medical center. She treated both human and Mordani patients, learning the differences and similarities between their bodies. One day, she saved the life of a Mordani child who had fallen from a tree. The child's parents wept with gratitude and called Yunbi a hero. "We are all the same inside," Yunbi told her staff that night. "Different colors, different shapes, but the same desire to live and love." Trade between Earth and the Mordani Empire flourished. Human art became popular in Mordani markets. Mordani technology helped Earth solve its energy problems. Ships traveled between the 2 civilizations constantly, carrying goods and ideas. Admiral Taewoo eventually retired from active duty and chose to stay on Valora. His daughter, Mi-young, had fallen in love with the planet. She was 25 years old and worked as a teacher in the colony school. Taewoo could not bear to take her away from the life she had built. "Father, have you seen the sunset from the eastern hills?" Mi-young asked him one evening. Tewu smiled. Not yet. Come with me tomorrow. The Mordani say it is the most beautiful sight on the planet. The 3 moons rise while the sun sets. They call it the Dance of Light, the old admiral agreed. He had spent his whole life fighting and commanding fleets. Now he wanted nothing more than to watch a sunset with his daughter. The Galactic Council sent observers to Valora to study the human-Mordani cooperation. They were impressed by what they saw. Other species began to consider similar partnerships with humanity. Earth's reputation in the galaxy grew stronger every day. Sunja, the old woman who had survived the resource wars, became a beloved figure in the colony. She told stories to the children about Earth's history, both the dark times and the bright ones. She taught them that peace was possible, but it required constant effort and trust. Remember, she would say to the young ones, we are guests on this world. We must always show respect and kindness to our hosts. The colonists listened to her wisdom. They worked hard to be good neighbors. They celebrated Mordani holidays and invited their alien friends to human festivals. For 5 years, the colony on Valora was everything humanity had hoped it would be. Commander Yuna watched her daughter grow from a small child into a curious young girl. Su Min spoke both languages perfectly and had friends from both species. She talked about becoming a pilot when she grew up, about exploring new worlds and meeting new people. Mama, Su Min said one night before bed, do you think there will always be peace? Yuna tucked the blanket around her daughter and thought carefully about her answer. I hope so, baby. I truly hope so. Outside their window, the 3 moons of Valora rose into the sky. The dance of light began, painting the clouds in colors that had no names in any human language. It was beautiful, beyond words. No one in the colony knew that these were their final days of peace. No one suspected that their trust would be betrayed. No one imagined that the friends they loved would soon become their murderers. The darkness was coming, and when it arrived, it would change humanity forever. The celebration had been planned for months. It was the 5th anniversary of the human colony on Valora, and both species wanted to mark the occasion with a grand feast. Mordani cooks prepared their finest dishes while human chefs contributed recipes from every nation on Earth. Admiral Tewu put on his old dress uniform for the event. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw a man who had finally found peace. His daughter Mi-young stood beside him, adjusting his medals. You look handsome, father, she said with a warm smile. And you look beautiful, he replied. Your mother would have been so proud to see you today. The feast was held in the Great Hall of Unity, a massive building that Mordani and human engineers had constructed together. Its walls were decorated with artwork from both civilizations. Thousands of people filled the space, laughing and talking and sharing food. Commander Yuna arrived with Su Min, who was now 9 years old. The girl wore a traditional dress that her grandmother had sent from Earth. She ran off immediately to find her Mordani friends, disappearing into the crowd of children. She grows so fast, Yuna said to Dr. Yunbi, who stood nearby. Unbi nodded. They all do. I remember when she was just a baby on the colony ship. High Lord Vexen entered the hall to loud applause. He walked to the center stage and raised all 4 of his arms for silence. His blue skin seemed to glow in the light of the crystal chandeliers. Friends, Vexen began, tonight we celebrate not just 5 years of cooperation, but the beginning of an eternal friendship. Humanity has proven itself worthy of our trust. We are honored to share this world with such noble beings. The crowd cheered. Admiral Tewu felt tears forming in his eyes. He had worked his entire life for moments like this, but something was wrong. Old Sunja noticed it first. She saw Mordani soldiers quietly positioning themselves near the exits. Their movements were too precise, too coordinated for a simple celebration. She tried to make her way toward Admiral Tewu, but the crowd was too thick. Captain Donghyun also sensed danger. He had been trained to recognize threats, and his instincts screamed at him. He reached for his communication device to contact the security team, but it was dead. All communication devices in the hall had stopped working. High Lord Vexen continued his speech. Tonight, we also deliver an important message to the galaxy. a message about the true nature of humanity. The lights in the hall changed from warm gold to cold blue. The massive doors slammed shut with a sound like thunder. Mordani soldiers raised their weapons. "Humans are not our friends," Vexen said, his voice now cold and hard. "They are a disease. A virus that spreads across the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. We have studied them for years. We have seen their history of war and destruction. We cannot allow this species to survive." Screams filled the air as the truth became clear. This was not a celebration. It was an execution. The first shots came from all directions. Mordani weapons did not fire bullets or energy beams. They fired molecular disruptors that tore human bodies apart at the cellular level. Men and women fell by the dozens, their bodies dissolving into dust. Admiral Tae-woo grabbed his daughter and threw her behind a table. "Stay down!" he shouted, pulling out his ceremonial sidearm. It was an old weapon, barely powerful enough to scratch Mordani armor. But he fired anyway. Commander Yuna searched desperately for Su-min through the chaos. She pushed through running crowds, stepped over fallen bodies, and called her daughter's name until her throat burned. But there was no answer. The noise of screaming and gunfire drowned everything else. "Su-min. Su-min." Dr. Eunbi tried to save the wounded. She crawled from person to person, using her bare hands to apply pressure to wounds that could not be healed. A young man grabbed her arm, his eyes filled with terror. "Why?" he whispered before the light left his eyes. Eunbi had no answer. She had no explanation for why the people she had trusted, the patients she had treated, the friends she had made, were now murdering everyone she loved. Captain Dong-hyun fought his way toward the emergency exit. He killed 3 Mordani soldiers with his bare hands before reaching the door. But the door was sealed with energy locks that he could not break. He turned to face more soldiers and knew he would die. "You will pay for this," he said through bloody teeth. "Humanity will make you pay." The Mordani soldier laughed and shot him in the chest. Old Sunja found herself pressed against a wall with a group of children. She spread her arms wide, trying to shield as many of them as possible. A Mordani soldier approached with his weapon raised. "Please," Sunja begged. "They are just children." The soldier hesitated for a moment. Then he fired. Admiral Tae-woo watched his daughter die in his arms. Mi-young had been hit by a stray shot while trying to help a wounded child. She looked up at her father with those eyes that reminded him so much of her mother. "I'm sorry, father," she whispered. "I wanted to see the sunrise tomorrow." Tae-woo held her close as her body went still. Something inside him broke at that moment. Something that could never be repaired. Commander Yuna finally found Su-min. Her daughter was lying in the corner of the hall, surrounded by her Mordani friends. The alien children had tried to protect her. They had stood between the soldiers and the human girl, begging their own people to stop. The soldiers had killed them all anyway. Yuna gathered her daughter's body and screamed until her voice gave out. The massacre lasted 3 hours. When it was over, 12,000 human colonists lay dead. Men, women, children, and elders. None were spared. The Great Hall of Unity had become a tomb. High Lord Vexen ordered his soldiers to broadcast everything. Cameras had recorded the entire event, and now the footage was being sent to every corner of the galaxy. Billions of beings watched humans die in terror and confusion. "Let this be a lesson," Vexen announced to the watching universe. "Humanity is too dangerous to exist. Their emotions make them unpredictable. Their love makes them weak. Any species that welcomes them will share their fate. The Mordani have done the galaxy a service." The Galactic Council received the broadcast in silence. No one condemned the massacre. No one offered help. No one spoke a single word against the Mordani. They simply watched and did nothing. Admiral Tae-woo was one of only 7 survivors. He had been shot 4 times but somehow refused to die. Mordani soldiers found him crawling toward his daughter's body hours after the massacre ended. They decided to let him live, thinking it would be more cruel than death. They put him on a ship and sent him back to Earth, with the footage of the massacre and a simple message. "Humanity is not welcome in this galaxy. Stay on your world or face extinction. When the ship arrived at Earth, Admiral Tae-woo was barely alive. Military doctors saved his body, but they could not save his soul. He lay in a hospital bed for weeks, staring at the ceiling, saying nothing. Then, one day, he spoke. "Gather the fleet commanders," he said in a voice that had become as cold as space itself. "Gather every scientist, every soldier, every citizen who lost someone on Valora. We have work to do." The nurse asked him what he meant. Tae-woo turned his head slowly and looked at her with eyes that had seen his daughter die. Eyes that had witnessed humanity's greatest betrayal. Eyes that now held nothing but darkness. "The Mordani think they know what humans are capable of," he said. "They are wrong. They have made the worst mistake any species can make. They have given humanity a reason to show its true nature." Somewhere in the cold depths of space, the Mordani celebrated their victory. They did not know that they had just started a countdown to their own destruction. Humanity's reply was coming, and it would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The galaxy waited for humanity to respond. The Galactic Council expected angry messages, desperate pleas for justice, or perhaps even a foolish attack that could be easily crushed. Instead, they received nothing. Earth went completely silent. For 3 years, no human ship left the solar system. No communication came from Earth. The planet simply disappeared from galactic affairs, as if humanity had accepted its fate and retreated into quiet grief. The Mordani Empire celebrated. High Lord Vexen gave speeches about how he had broken the human spirit. Other species nodded in agreement and praised the Mordani for protecting the galaxy from a dangerous race. "They are finished," Vexen told his council. "The humans will spend the rest of their existence crying over their dead. They are too emotional to think clearly, too weak to fight back. We have nothing to fear from them." But the Mordani were wrong. Humanity was not crying. Humanity was working. Deep beneath the mountains of South Korea, a massive facility had been constructed in secret. Captain Sung-ho commanded the military personnel stationed there. He was a quiet man who rarely smiled anymore. His entire family had died on Valora, including his pregnant wife and their unborn child. "Report," he said to the scientist standing before him. Dr. Ji-eun adjusted her glasses and pulled up data on her tablet. She was the lead researcher on Project Reckoning, the codename for humanity's response to the massacre. Like everyone else in the facility, she had lost people she loved on Valora. "The quantum disruptors are ready for mass production," Ji-eun said. "Our weapons will pass through Mordani shields like they don't exist. Their armor will provide no protection." Sung-ho nodded. "What about the ships?" "The new fleet is 60% complete. Admiral Tae-woo wants them ready within 8 months. It will be difficult, but we will meet the deadline." In shipyards across Earth, workers labored day and night to build vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These were not exploration ships or diplomatic cruisers. They were instruments of war, designed for one purpose only: the complete destruction of the Mordani Empire. Admiral Tae-woo oversaw everything from his command center in Geneva. The scars on his body had healed, but the ones on his soul never would. He slept only 4 hours a night and spent every waking moment reviewing plans, testing simulations, and preparing for the day of revenge. "Sir," said his aide, a young woman named Hee-jin, "the Galactic Council has sent another message asking about our silence." Tae-woo did not look up from his work. "Ignore them. They had 3 years to speak up after Valora. They chose silence. Now they can wonder what we are doing." The council had indeed noticed the unusual quiet from Earth. Some members worried that humanity was building weapons. Others dismissed the concern, pointing out that human technology was centuries behind the rest of the galaxy. What they did not know was that humanity had spent those 3 years studying every piece of alien technology they had ever obtained. They had reverse-engineered Mordani shields, improved upon Mordani weapons, and developed entirely new systems that the galaxy had never imagined. Dr. Ji-eun's greatest creation was called the Ghost Protocol. It was a cloaking system so advanced that it could hide entire fleets from detection, not just from sensors, but from every form of observation known to science. Ships using the Ghost Protocol became invisible in ways that broke the laws of physics. "How is this possible?" asked a visiting scientist from the European facility. Ji-un smiled grimly. "When the Mordani killed our children, they also killed our respect for what's supposed to be possible. We stopped asking if something could be done and simply found ways to do it." Across Earth, similar scenes played out. In Japan, engineers developed engines that could move ships faster than any vessel in the galaxy. In Brazil, weapons experts created missiles that could track Mordani DNA and ignore all other targets. In Russia, computer scientists built artificial intelligences specifically designed to crack Mordani security systems. Every nation on Earth contributed to the effort. Old enemies became allies. Political differences were forgotten. Humanity had never been so united in its entire history. Sung-ho walked through the corridors of the underground facility late one night. He passed by a memorial wall covered with photographs of those who had died on Valora. He stopped before the picture of his wife and touched it gently. "Soon," he whispered. "I promise." Admiral Tae-woo made regular visits to the facilities to inspect progress and maintain morale. The workers respected him not because of his rank, but because of his pain. He had lost his daughter in the massacre. He carried that grief with him like a stone around his neck. "Why don't you rest, Admiral?" Heejin asked him one evening. Tae-woo looked at her with eyes that held no warmth. "I will rest when the last Mordani city burns. I will sleep when every being in the galaxy understands what happens to those who murder human children." The preparations continued in absolute secrecy. Human intelligence agents spread false information throughout the galaxy, making it seem like Earth was suffering from economic collapse and social unrest. The Mordani believed every lie. They thought humanity was dying slowly, collapsing under the weight of its own grief. Dr. Ji-un developed one final weapon that Tae-woo kept secret even from most of his own people. It was called the Final Answer. The details were known to only 5 people on Earth. All anyone else knew was that it existed, and that it would never be used unless absolutely necessary. "This weapon crosses a line," Ji-un warned when she presented it to the Admiral. Tae-woo studied the data for a long moment. "The Mordani crossed every line when they killed our children at a celebration of friendship. If they force us to use this, the responsibility is theirs." As the 3rd year came to an end, the preparations were complete. 200 new warships sat in hidden stations throughout the solar system. Millions of soldiers had been trained in new tactics and equipped with new weapons. Every human on Earth knew that war was coming, and every human supported it. But before the attack began, Tae-woo made one final broadcast to his people. It was transmitted to every screen on Earth, watched by every citizen of humanity's home world. 3 years ago, we trusted the Mordani. We lived with them, worked with them, and believed they were our friends. They repaid our trust by slaughtering our families, while the galaxy watched and did nothing. He paused, his old face showing the weight of his grief. "Tomorrow, our ships will leave Earth. We will find the Mordani wherever they hide. We will burn their worlds and silence their voices forever. Some may call this genocide. I call it justice." Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice was as cold as the void between stars. "Let this be a lesson to every species in the galaxy. Humanity wanted peace. We offered friendship to everyone we met, but when you hurt us, when you betray us, when you murder our children, we become something else. We become your worst nightmare." He straightened his uniform and looked directly into the camera. "To the Mordani, I say this. You should have killed all of us. Because the ones you left alive remember everything. And we are coming for you. I'm not say Janus." The broadcast ended. The next morning, 200 human warships emerged from hiding and began their journey across the stars. The reckoning had begun. The Mordani homeworld of Zenthos received the first warning at exactly midnight. A sensor operator noticed something strange in the data. A small flicker that should not have existed. Before he could report it, the flicker became a storm. 200 human warships appeared out of nowhere, surrounding the planet like a ring of death. The Ghost Protocol deactivated, and suddenly the most advanced Mordani sensors showed what they had missed: an invasion force that had traveled across the galaxy completely undetected. High Lord Vexen was awakened by his guards and rushed to the command center. What he saw on the screens made his blue skin turn pale. "That is impossible," he whispered. "Their technology is primitive. They could not have built ships like these." But the ships were very real, and they were already firing. The quantum disruptors worked exactly as Dr. Ji-yoon had promised. Mordani shields, which had protected their civilization for 10,000 years, simply stopped functioning. The first military station above Zenthos exploded within seconds of the battle beginning. Admiral Tae-woo commanded the fleet from the bridge of the UNSS Valora's Children, named in honor of those who had died. He watched the Mordani defenses crumble and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. "Sir, the enemy is launching their fleet," reported Commander Bo-ram, his tactical officer. "How many ships?" Tae-woo asked. 400. "They outnumber us 2-1. Tae-woo almost smiled. "Good. That makes this more fair." The battle that followed would be studied by military historians for centuries. Human ships moved with speed and precision that the Mordani could not match. Their weapons tore through alien hulls like paper. Their tactics were brutal and efficient. Captain Sung-ho led the assault wing that targeted the Mordani flagship. His ship, the Vengeance, cut through enemy formations without slowing down. He personally ordered the killing shot that destroyed High Lord Vexen's command vessel. "That was for my wife," Sung-ho said quietly, as the enemy flagship broke apart. "That was for my child." On the surface of Zenthos, Mordani civilians watched in horror as their military was destroyed in orbit. The mighty empire that had ruled for 10,000 years was being dismantled in hours. Fires rained from the sky as destroyed ships fell through the atmosphere. The Galactic Council emergency meeting was already in progress. Representatives from dozens of species watched the battle footage in disbelief. No one had expected humanity to survive its silence, let alone return with such devastating force. "We must intervene," said the delegate from the Kresh Collective. "The humans are committing war crimes. We have one prophet. We have one prophet. We have new state. They are avenging a massacre that we ignored," replied the delegate from the Nexan Federation. "We have no right to judge them." The debate continued, but no one actually moved to help the Mordani. The galaxy had watched 12,000 innocent humans die and done nothing. Now they would watch the Mordani die and do nothing as well. Admiral Tae-woo broadcast a message to every communication channel in the galaxy. His face appeared on screens from one end of known space to the other. 3 years ago, the Mordani murdered our people while you watched. The Galactic Council did nothing. The great civilizations of this galaxy said nothing. You let our children burn, and called it justice. He paused, letting his words sink in. Now you will watch this. The Mordani thought humanity was weak because we love our families, because we feel grief, because we cry when our children die. They were wrong. Our love does not make us weak. It makes us dangerous beyond your understanding. Another pause. You watched them die. Now watch this. The bombardment of Zenthos began. Human ships targeted military installations, government buildings, and weapons factories. The strikes were precise, avoiding purely civilian areas, but the destruction was still massive. The capital city of the Mordani Empire burned. On the surface, Commander Yuna led the ground forces. She had volunteered for this mission personally, refusing to stay behind on Earth. Her daughter had died on Valora, and she wanted to see the Mordani answer for that crime with her own eyes. Secure the central district, she ordered her troops. Take prisoners if they surrender. Kill them if they resist. Most Mordani soldiers chose to fight. They had been taught that humanity was weak and cowardly. They learned the truth too late, as human troops cut through their defenses with weapons and tactics they had never encountered. Dr. Ji-eun watched the battle from orbit, monitoring the performance of her creations. The quantum disruptors worked perfectly. The Ghost Protocol had allowed the fleet to arrive undetected. Everything she had built was functioning exactly as designed, but she felt no joy. Only a hollow emptiness that would never be filled. "Doctor," said her assistant. The military is asking about the final answer. Should we prepare it? Ji-Yun shook her head. Admiral Tae-woo said we will only use it if absolutely necessary. For now, conventional weapons are sufficient. Ayler. 2000. Free Ayler. Tae-woo said. The battle for Zenthos lasted 3 days. When it was over, the Mordani homeworld had fallen under human control. Their military was destroyed. Their government had collapsed. High Lord Vexen was dead, killed on his own flagship. But the war was not over. The Mordani Empire controlled 3 star systems, with dozens of colonies and billions of citizens. Admiral Tae-woo had no intention of stopping at Zenthos. Set course for the second Mordani system, he ordered. We continue until there is nothing left. The Galactic Council sent a formal request for humanity to stop the war. Tae-woo responded with a simple message. You had 3 years to request justice for our dead. Your concern comes too late. Captain Sung-ho led the assault on the second Mordani world. The fight was shorter this time. The enemy knew what was coming, and many of their soldiers simply surrendered. Sung-ho accepted their surrender, treating prisoners according to the rules of war that humanity still honored. You could have done the same for our people, Sung-ho told a captured Mordani officer. You chose to kill unarmed men, women, and children instead. Remember that when you judge us for what comes next. Commander Yuna's forces liberated camps where the Mordani had been holding human survivors from other colonies. Less than 1,000 humans had been kept alive as prisoners and research subjects. Their stories added fuel to humanity's rage. They experimented on us, said one survivor, a young man named Hyun-woo. They wanted to understand why humans feel emotions so strongly. They cut us open while we were still awake. Yuna held his hand while he cried. She promised him that no Mordani would ever hurt another human again. The third Mordani system fell within a week. The empire that had ruled for 10,000 years was being erased from existence. Human forces worked with mechanical efficiency, destroying military targets and securing civilian populations. Some Mordani colonies surrendered without fighting. Their leaders realized that resistance was pointless and chose to save their people from destruction. These colonies were treated fairly. Their civilians protected from harm. Other colonies fought to the last soldier. These were shown no mercy. Human weapons reduced their defenses to rubble, and human troops swept through their cities like a cleansing fire. Admiral Tae-woo watched each battle from his command ship. He ate little, slept less, and spoke only when necessary. His officers worried about him, but no one dared to question his orders. The galaxy watched in silence. Some species felt pity for the Mordani. Others felt satisfaction that a bully was finally being punished. Most simply felt fear. If humanity could do this to the Mordani, what could they do to anyone else who crossed them? The Galactic Council held another emergency meeting. This time, the discussion was different. They were no longer debating whether to help the Mordani. They were debating how to prevent humanity from becoming the next great threat to galactic peace. We created this monster, said the Kresh delegate. We allowed the massacre to happen. We said nothing when humans were murdered. Now we face the consequences. The consequences have not yet been fully revealed, replied another delegate. The humans are holding something back. I can feel it. They were right. The final answer remained unused, hidden in the deepest part of the human fleet. Dr. Ji-Yun checked on it every day, praying that it would never be needed. But the war was not over yet. And the worst was still to come. The last Mordani stronghold was a fortress built into the core of an artificial moon. It was called the Eternal Keep, and it had been designed to survive any attack. For 10,000 years, no enemy had ever breached its walls. Admiral Tae-woo studied the fortress from his command ship. The structure was massive, filled with the remaining Mordani military leadership and millions of civilians who had fled there for protection. Sir, reported Commander Boram, our weapons can damage the outer defenses, but breaking through completely would take months. The keep was built to resist exactly this kind of assault. Taewoo nodded slowly. What about the civilians inside? Estimated population is 3 million. Mostly families of military personnel. The admiral closed his eyes. For a moment, he saw his daughter's face. He saw her smile on the day she arrived on Valora. He saw the light leave her eyes as she died in his arms. Open a communication channel to the keep, he ordered. The face of Marshal Drexen appeared on the screen. He was the last surviving leader of the Mordani military, a veteran commander who had opposed the massacre from the beginning. His opposition had earned him exile to a distant colony, which was the only reason he was still alive. Admiral Taewoo, Drexen said, I wondered when you would contact us directly. You have 1 hour to evacuate all civilians from the keep, Taewoo replied. After that, we attack. Drexen's forearms spread in a gesture of frustration. The keep cannot be evacuated in 1 hour. There are 3 million people here, mostly children and elderly. The transport ships alone would take days to load. Then I suggest you move quickly. Admiral, please. The ones who ordered the massacre are dead. High Lord Vexen is dead. The council members who approved the attack are dead. Why must innocent civilians pay for the crimes of their leaders? Taewoo's expression did not change. You ask me about innocent civilians? Let me tell you about innocent civilians. Marshal. There was a little girl named Sumin. She was 9 years old. She loved to play with Mordani children. She wanted to be a pilot when she grew up. He paused. She was shot by Mordani soldiers while her Mordani friends tried to protect her. They killed the alien children too, because they dared to love a human. That is what your people did to innocent civilians. Drexen lowered his head. I know. I have watched the footage of Valora many times. I have felt shame for what my people did. But killing more innocents will not bring back the ones you lost. No, it will not, Taewoo agreed. But it will ensure that no one in this galaxy ever considers harming humans again. You have 55 minutes remaining. The communication ended. Inside the keep, chaos erupted as civilians scrambled for any ship that could carry them away. But there were not enough ships. There was not enough time. Marshal Drexen did everything he could. But the mathematics of the situation were impossible. Dr. Ji-yoon contacted the Admiral privately. Sir, the final answer is ready if you choose to use it. What exactly will it do? Asked Captain Sung-ho, who was listening in. Ji-yoon hesitated before answering. It is a genetic weapon. Once deployed, it will spread through any Mordani population within range. The infected will die within hours. The weapon is self-limiting and will burn out after eliminating all Mordani life in the target area. How large is the target area? Sung-ho asked. If deployed at full power, it will spread through every Mordani colony in the galaxy. There will be no survivors. Silence fell over the communication channel. Even Taewoo seemed affected by the weight of what Ji-yoon had described. Complete extinction, Sung-ho said quietly. You built a weapon that could erase an entire species. I built it because I was ordered to, Ji-yoon replied. I pray every day that it never has to be used. The hour passed. Approximately 200,000 civilians escaped the keep before time ran out. The rest remained trapped inside with Marshal Drexen and his soldiers. Admiral. Drexen transmitted one final time. I have ordered my remaining forces to stand down. We will not fire on your ships. All I ask is that you spare the civilians who could not escape. Taewoo was silent for a long moment. Commander Yuna, who had joined the command staff after the ground campaigns ended, stepped forward. Admiral, she said, I lost my daughter on Valora. My heart wants revenge more than anything. But we did not start this war to become monsters. We started it to show the galaxy that humanity cannot be murdered without consequences. Captain Sung-ho spoke next. The military targets have been destroyed. The Empire has fallen. Killing 3 million civilians will not make us safer. It will only make us into what they said we were. Taewoo looked at his officers. These were people who had lost everything to the Mordani. They had spent 3 years building weapons of total destruction. They had every right to demand complete vengeance, but they were also still human. They still had their souls. Target only military installations, Tae-woo ordered. Precision strikes. No civilian casualties. The attack on the Eternal Keep was surgical. Human weapons destroyed defensive systems, military bunkers, and weapons platforms. The civilian areas were untouched. When the bombardment ended, the keep was damaged but intact. Marshal Drexen survived. He transmitted a message of surrender on behalf of all remaining Mordani forces. The war was officially over. Admiral Tae-woo made one final broadcast to the galaxy. The Mordani Empire no longer exists. Their military has been destroyed. Their government has collapsed. Their homeworld is under human control. We have shown the galaxy what happens to those who murder our children. He paused. But we have also shown something else. When victory was complete, when we had the power to erase every Mordani from existence, we chose mercy. Not because they deserved it, but because we are human, and we will not abandon our humanity, even for revenge. Another pause. To the Galactic Council, I say this. We are returning to Earth. We will close our borders and have no further contact with your civilizations. You watched our people die and did nothing. We do not wish to be part of a galaxy that allows such things. But remember what you have seen. Remember that humanity wanted peace. Remember that we offered friendship to everyone we met. And remember what happened when that friendship was betrayed. His final words echoed across every system in known space. We will not forget. We will never forget. And if anyone makes the mistake of attacking humanity again, we will not show mercy a second time. The human fleet departed Mordani space and returned to Earth. True to Tae-woo's word, humanity closed its borders. No alien ships were allowed near the solar system. No communication from the Galactic Council was answered. The final answer was dismantled, and its designs were destroyed. Dr. Ji-eun personally oversaw the process, making sure that the weapon could never be rebuilt. Some things should not exist, she said, as the last data was erased. Even for people like us. Commander Yuna returned to Earth and found a small house by the ocean. She spent her days teaching children, and her nights watching the stars. She never forgot her daughter, but she learned to live with the loss. Captain Sung-ho became the commander of Earth's defense forces. He made sure that humanity would never be caught off guard again. Under his leadership, human military technology advanced beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Marshal Drexen spent the rest of his life trying to rebuild Mordani society. The survivors established small communities on worlds far from their former empire. They never forgot what they had done, or what had been done to them in return. Admiral Tae-woo retired to a small apartment overlooking the mountains of Korea. He lived simply. Visited by old friends and former officers who wanted to pay their respects, he never spoke publicly about the war again. On clear nights, he would stand on his balcony and look up at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a planet called Velora, his daughter had watched a sunset with 3 moons. She had called it the Dance of Light. I hope you found peace, Mi-young, he whispered to the sky. I hope you forgive me for what I had to do. The galaxy watched Earth from a distance, never quite sure what the humans were doing behind their closed borders. Some species feared them. Others respected them. All of them remembered the lesson that humanity had taught. There are lines that should never be crossed. There are crimes that should never be committed. And there is a species that will stop at nothing to punish those who harm the ones they love. Humanity had shown the galaxy its true nature. They could be the most compassionate allies in the universe, or the most terrifying enemies ever known. The choice, as it always had been, belonged to everyone else. And the galaxy chose very carefully from that day forward.